And they can have my things when we're dead. But we gonna live forever. We gonna live forever.
And the Boys Cast. Ryan here, Danny Polshock,
Hello.
Jokes. I wanted
What's
to...
up?
One thing that before I even got into all the stuff, because lots of stuff going down, but the first thing I wanted to say, because I've been trying to introduce a segment that's Boy of the Week, and it's a tie, Vin Diesel and The Rock, and I found out that their contract says that they can't lose fights.
Yeah, like they're just like straight up, we can't like denigrate.
Also, Danny's going to try to say like less. He's off to a bad start.
We want to get a jar.
I know, that's what I'm saying, and to be held accountable.
And to be held accountable.
We appreciate being held accountable.
Yeah.
There was...
it's not a good start.
So basically in their contract for Fast and Furious, they're not allowed to lose fights. And so when they make the thing, if the writers write that they lose fights, they have to essentially renegotiate.
And this is in the WWE?
No, this is in a movie. Too Fast,
right.
Fast and Furious 9. Well,
what about a race?
Well, they might be able to lose a race, but they can't lose fights. This is the original. So Steven Seagal, I always said, had the original contract like that because he could never... If you've seen, okay, do you remember Machete? Mm-hmm. So in Machete, Steven Seagal, it was the only time he ever died because he died in one other movie, but then he came back to life. But in Machete, he died at the end, and because he's the bad guy, so he has to die. So the only way that happens, he's fighting the Machete guy, and he goes, actually, you know what? You are right. I am wrong, or whatever, some version of that. And then he stabs himself, like Japanese style.
Yeah.
He goes, Goosh, and he falls over.
He has to die honorably.
And he got to kill the killer as well.
Right.
So the only way that Steven Seagal could die in a movie was at his own hand. Also, Danny wasn't happy today with Mr. Biden. He said Biden's America took him for a rinse.
Rinsed me.
So basically, he's raising the capital gains tax.
The thing is he wants to raise it on like ultra wealthy. Like it doesn't even affect me or most people. But the way the stock market works is there's literal.
He's killing the stock market.
There's algorithms. No, there's just algorithms that are just like these news-based things where people like information goes in and they make these decisions based on the information and like, you know, based on news wires and stuff. And they just decided we're selling everything. So everything was like going nice and smoothly, and then it just took.
I can't get a credit card. My Spectrum's down in Biden's America. Danny's stock portfolio took a hit.
Oh, the only thing that was good is I was short Dogecoin, and it was kind of moving against me. And then because of that, the Dogecoin just took a dump too.
Dogecoin did take a sort of a dump.
I mean, the Dogecoin's the dumbest thing. I was like, I wouldn't short any other cryptocurrency.
I support the Doge. I support the Doge heads in the Doge.
Oh, I have no problem with it. I'm
pro
like,
Doge.
I'm like, you like Doge? I'm fine with it. But
so he said basically. I saw a big thing that he posted too, and it's all very like, we're gonna put money into the climate. Basically, if you have more than $100,000, you're gonna have to just give $20,000 personally, and they basically just throw it at the earth, and they think that makes it better. They just sprinkle all of your dollar bills along the plains of.
And that's another thing too. He didn't pass anything. He's just like proposing it. Like it's not gonna go through.
It's just so you know we're gonna be doing it. But I saw a fun
Man,
thing.
I wish Trump was on Twitter today. Holy.
That's
fuck.
what we were saying. Yeah.
Oh man.
If Trump came back to Twitter just to every now and then just comment on things,
but especially when the stock market gets killed because of something Biden does.
What if
Twitter, he's like, you guys miss me.
Twitter should just give him a deal where he gets like one tweet a week.
He still has his system where he can release the press.
It's not the same.
The press.
So
releases.
they had the National Glacier, the Glacier National Park. Basically, they had signs that said the glaciers are going to be gone by 2020. So they go, okay, you know, enjoy it because it'll be gone.
2020?
Yeah,
when was this?
Forever.
Oh.
For the last 10 years, they had the signs everywhere. And then recently, they just had to take the signs down.
They can't. Well, they can't just like add a 3.
Well, they sort of updated them, but basically it said they said they put up new signs that said when they will disappear depends completely on how we act and when we act. So it's just so funny. It says, because this is what they said in the article. It said, in several decades, they will most likely be gone. They will grow so small they will disappear. And then certainly they will be gone before the end of the century, the study's lead scientist said. So now they've updated the basically the doomsday thing.
Yeah, we've hired a new scientist. Remember the Mayan calendar thing a couple years ago?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, they go, I guess we didn't carry a 1, but we'll see you in 1,000 years.
That's what these people, it's like the amount of people, and you've seen it with so many politicians over the year and I always say this about Peter Schiff. That's my main critique of him. But the amount of these people that are just always like, okay, this is going to be done by 10. The economy is going to crash by this day. We're basically going to be underwater if we don't spend all our money on this thing. And then it never happens and nothing ever changes. They all just update their predictions.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Peter Schiff is he has been right before, but if you are constantly calling for a correction in the stock market, you're going to be right sometimes, but he's still wrong 90% of the time.
Yeah. But are you still doing the protesting for Chauvin, for him getting out and writing him?
I'm taking a knee. Yeah.
You're taking a knee for Chauvin.
I'm like, remember how Kaepernick was like, he didn't actually say he was like kneeling. He just like in a preseason game, they were like, it's weird. He's kneeling during the anthem. I'm just going to be in Union Square, just the one guy kneeling. And I'm going to wait for, like, I'm not going to say anything about it. And then I'm going to wait for someone to be like, are you kneeling? And I go, what for? And I go, injustice in America.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that'd be funny if, like, the rappers, because it's always like another man incarcerated. If someone made that song about Chauvin, like the system putting another man away, an innocent man, chauvinistic.
Dude, you know that girl Cassandra Fairbanks? She's like this like kind of reporter, like right-wing reporter chick. She had like basically something where it's like, Derek Chauvin is like a political prisoner. You can't prove him otherwise. And I was like, sorry.
Oh yeah, people are stressed out about that. Do you think he's getting fan mail?
Not yet. I don't think he has an address yet.
But do you think that in jail, Chauvin's getting like chicks messaging him? I know. Do you think he's getting chicks messaging him?
He will. Did you watch the Richard Ramirez documentary? He kind of had a rock star vibe, even though everybody said he smelled like a fucking farm. But and he had this like totally fucked up, but like he was like getting all these new, like he was being charged with like straight up molesting, raping children, like breaking into their houses, killing all these people, and with this known and like not like really people weren't like saying it was false or whatever, like women were sending him like all these nudes and stuff in prison.
Yeah, I think so basically outside my house after this happened, because I actually watched them announce the verdict, and within 2 hours or whatever, all the people were still protesting outside of my house. There was 4 different protests that went by. So it's kind of that thing. Patrick sort of said this, but it's like the activists are like chicks. They're just never satisfied.
Yeah.
It really does that. So I was watching it, and essentially they go guilty, guilty, guilty. They cut to CNN and all the people, and not a single one of them said, oh, good. Every single one of them goes, this is not even close to enough. And it was the most that they could have. So it really...
I will say we have 3 more chances for riots, because I think there'll be a riot if any one of those police officers gets off or like doesn't get like the book thrown at them.
That's what I was sort of thinking, because I was looking at, I kind of every now and then look at people like Sean King's profiles or whatever like that, right? And it's funny because his whole, gig is posting that another guy got shot or whatever. But it's so interesting in a country with 330 million people, and there's 350 days a year or whatever it is, 380 days a year.
Somewhere in between there.
Somewhere about that.
It's actually right in between.
Somewhere in between.
It's dead in between.
However many days there are in a year. So all you need, the amount of things that happen 400 times a year. Mm-hmm. I mean, whatever you want to do, I mean, think about all the people, like a Kumi or someone he posts the other things. Like here's another, here's where they shot a white guy or whatever it is. And you go, all you need is 400 a year. And every single day you could go a fucking another one.
There's more than 400 unarmed people killed by the police every year in America.
That's my point. So you can do 2 a day now, 3 a day.
Yeah.
And in a country with 330 million people, all it has to, every day 1 in 400 million people are murdered. And it's so easy to just create whatever fucking narrative you want.
Absolutely.
And it really is, like if I wanted to say, oh, women are actually the real criminals, and then every day I post another one, here we go again, another woman domestic violence.
100%. Yeah. It's like, I mean, the CNN
it's
stuff.
Just completely
I mean, they're all the same, not to single out CNN, but it is particularly bad. But it's like, yeah.
Danny doesn't want to single out CNN.
Well, it's like, I'm not going to be like, oh, Fox News is fucking telling the truth and CNN's not. Like, they're all doing their same thing, but they pick their points, and they decide their narrative, and then they find the things that support them. And it's like, it's pretty, again, again,
But it is funny to see how many. I mean, everyone talks about whatever, the bunch of little echo chambers or whatever. But it is funny when you see someone and their whole thing is one thing. They could, you could post dog attacks. I have a girl that I went to high school with that's really like anti-abortion. That's every day. And whatever it is, you go dog attacks. You can make anything seem.
I mean, vaccine, like the vaccine stuff with like how they shut down the J&J vaccine because it was like 7 women out of 7 million got sick and 1 died of a blood clot. And you're like, so it's 1 in 7 million people died of a blood clot, died of one. I guess 7 people got them. But then they're like, I didn't even know this. 1 out of 1,000 women who takes birth control gets a blood clot. So it's
that's
one
what
in,
I was saying. It's
1 in 1,000 for birth control, 1 in 1,000,000 for this vaccine. And people are like, yeah, my whole identity is that this vaccine. It's like, they're like, this vaccine is going to kill you. And you're like,
well, but more importantly, even if whatever you think about that, it just shows like how much they go against their own thing because forever, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, so if they're saying 1 death of COVID's too much, I guess if anything, it actually is kind of more, maybe I kind of retract my point and it's like the opposite where they go, if 1 death from COVID's too many, and then they go 1 death from the vaccine's too many, and they go 1 death from this too many. And you go,
it's like a cost benefit.
Yeah, but they don't know cost benefit.
Obviously.
If you think about it, they couldn't do cost benefit in the first place.
100%. Yeah, no question about that.
The whole COVID thing was, you could go, well, they're dying here too, and they go 1 death is too many, but only for this. So they're just adding things to they're finally admitting that there's another thing that 1 death is too many for.
Yeah.
So 1 death is too many for everything.
Imagine that they get rid of there's just COVID's defeated and they go, you know what, we got to eliminate death.
I think that's legitimately what they were saying when you say 1 death is too many.
Yeah, basically.
Well, I had a solution for the cops thing. I think that that if you made all bloggers cops, so if you had that, everyone who works at HuffPo, BuzzFeed, anything like that, they become the cops. You sort of send them out to Harlem to deal with all the.
Yeah, they'd be like, hey fellas, how you doing today? Just wanted to come and rap.
Yo, did you see? I thought it was hilarious, the knife thing. So basically,
that's crazy.
The girl with the knife, and you go, everyone's so cooked. Basically, this woman. They were in a fight and they had a knife and they were like, and the girl was
just about to stab her,
and the police shot him. And then celebrities are so fucking cooked. And these people, they're so cooked down their hole. And the legitimate politicians, and like Kathy Griffin was posting, oh my God, we don't need police to come in and stop knife fights. And the kids have been having knife fights since the beginning of time.
You're like, the whole thing too with the calculus of that is you're like, one of those girls was going to die.
Yeah.
You're just mad which one died. The one who was about to murder someone ended up dying versus the one who was about to get murdered. And then people were like, well, like they were bullying her, so she was defending herself. But you're like, yeah, but like one person was about, like, no police intervention, you have 1 death. Police intervention, you have 1 death.
They're just
so, and now you just have to weigh, you have to be like, okay, well, who has the more valuable life of the two, I guess.
I never really got the whole thing where, okay, so there's this idea that everyone wants to defund the police. But in my opinion, it's just like a fucking, college girl activist, this shit, right?
It's like, I mean, nobody thinks it through past like just saying it and tweeting it.
Correct. But if you think of even the premise behind it, it just doesn't make sense to me, this idea that where they go, okay, if you're saying, like, if I thought of a bunch of Florida crackheads, right? Mm-hmm. When they make it the race thing, if I look at a bunch of crackheads in Florida and then you go, look how many crackheads got shot and they were, going into stores and threatening people and they had interactions with the police. And then we kind of said, they were like, yeah, too many white people are getting shot from this. The answer is we're going to get rid of cops so the crackheads can run wild because we're not going to kill any more of your people.
Yeah.
We've got your back. We're going to get rid of the cops for all those. And you go, what? I don't want that.
Most people don't want that.
But that's, what woman living in Harlem and you go, oh, there's all this crime happening. And she goes, you guys, I'm glad you have my back. You go, it's kind of, I think that it all depends on who your enemy is. And it's like, these people have made their enemy the class. Like, as a comedian, you're probably mostly, your enemy is, probably blogger class, the fucking, whatever, people trying to shut down speech and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The what?
The wokies.
The wokie. I mean, really, the people who, and if you were a drug dealer, your enemy would probably be the cops. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if you're a fucking 90% of people that are fucking normal, your enemy's not the cops. But these people they basically, and again,
Well,
There
that's
is
just what they
bad
want. They
cops,
want
but-
that. Yeah, there is bad cops. There's bad whatever. But like that's just the position they want to take because 95% of rational people, not even rational people, 95% of people, maybe 90, watch that video of the girl getting shot, and they're like, yeah, it's unfortunate she got shot, but they're like, what else are you gonna do? Like, and the crazy thing is always just like, oh, like why don't they shoot them less? That's always like it comes up. They go like, why do they have to shoot them 4 times? Why not shoot them 1 time? And you're like, well, because they shoot until the person goes down, and it's like if one and it's like it's a split second. Like you go shoot and you go like, what do you wait 3 seconds? It's like she could stab her then, and now you just like 2 people are hurt.
Well, I watch
like,
a lot of Criminal Minds, and I always wondered why whenever the person has the knife to the neck, and then they're ready to shoot the person, and sometimes they slit the throat, and you go, I guess they just take that chance because we can talk them down, and they all have the guns there. And the idea, I guess, is, well, if she makes a move to slit the neck, well,
right.
But even when 2 people have triggers pointed at each other, I never got why one of them just didn't shoot. It's like you don't have what you can see them move their finger moving, and then you shoot.
I guess it's the idea that someone that they, Well, also it's like if you don't basically put a bullet in someone's like directly in their brain that kills them instantly. Right.
They still have time, but
like unless you have like these shot of shots, like you're probably gonna be able to, shoot you a few times.
Yeah, I don't really know what the
best scenario is just stay out of those.
I think. Well, I know it is, but yeah, exactly. Stay out of those situations.
Stay out of those situations.
But this is one of the most complicated things or whatever. But you go. It's just the fucking literally children running the school. You go, everyone's on the same page. You go, yeah, this thing's bad. Like that guy killed a bunch of people. This happened again. Definitely they should be able to fire cops. There's a lot of bad cops. And then you go, okay, listen, obviously, like you said, most rational people are go, yeah, you're probably not going to get rid of cops in crime areas. I mean, it's not.
Most people don't want that.
Well, obviously, crime would just go up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in Minneapolis, they were like the whole defund the police thing, and then just like crime went up, and then people were like, yeah, Minneapolis got.
If I was a criminal, I'd like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I had an idea for a sketch, because my favorite sketches are where they're not like no one really can figure out exactly why they're mad, the people that are on the mad brigade. That's why I like the Jewish one, because if you boil it down, people are like, I don't like this. And you go, what? Do you not agree that vaccines don't make you gay?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, well, but you said he's a gay lord. And I was like, no, I'm saying he's not a gay lord.
Exactly.
I was saying that didn't happen.
And also he's saying that.
Well, you shouldn't say gay lord. I agree. Maybe you shouldn't have said that. Poor choice of words for that guy, that I was parodying.
Fictional character.
Or whatever, right? And then you're just kind of making fun of it. But I thought a funny thing that was really making me laugh was the idea of the grammar police having a racism problem and them sort of saying, 95% of grammar police are actually good, but it's this, we can't get rid of this guy. And the guy's like, it's a hard ER. He's on the grammar police and he goes, learn English.
What country are you? Go back to where you came from.
Yeah.
It's just like the worst.
It's pronounced ask. They're like in the grammar police. They have a racism problem, and then the other guys are, we're just here. It's like it's actually it's EIR there, not ERE. And he, 95% of 97% of the grammar police are just good guys. But we have a union.
Defund the grammar police.
Yeah, and they want they keep talking about getting rid of all the grammar police just because of this one guy. But that's, funny. That's not how you spell spick. He's great. Yeah, he's that's one of the things I was thinking of. But anyways, I thought it was a weird one to watch. It's almost there was so much energy around this thing that it almost they made it so. People, like you said, people die every day. And you can make jokes about the worst things in the world, cancer, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Pedophilia, whatever it is. But this one guy dying, I bet you most people are, you can't joke about that. I mean, even in comedy clubs, people would feel it's weird how it's just whatever they choose is the thing is that's
yeah. But that's I guess sometimes what makes it fun. Do you think people were like bummed that they're like
I do
2 times, but I'm saying for 2 times now in the last 6 months they've had to board up their shit and nothing happened.
I was
like businesses were just like fuck again, like they have to do it again.
Well, I was thinking that I saw a lot of people that kind of didn't know how to react. Like they were kind of fired up and it sort of took the wind out of people's sails. And because
they wanted to fight. They wanted a riot.
There was a lot of people that were just, let's say not even rioters. Let's say your average person on Facebook that's or whatever, Instagram, that's just been posting, in New York kind of fired up about this. I saw a lot of people kind of going through weird phases where someone would be, good. And then 2 months later, they kind of go, this is probably good, but it's not perfect. And then, then after a day, they kind of got to, well, this is just a start.
Yeah,
it was
so weird too.
It was him going through. It's like, how do I be the guy I was yesterday with this happening, kind of thing.
I feel like some people you'd be like, what do you want? A public execution? Like, is that going to make you happy?
I was honestly thinking that a public execution would to some degree it was.
But like, there are people who I'm like legit. I'm like, what do you want? Like, you legitimately want to just like, we'll take him to fucking Washington Square Park and just cut his head off? Like,
yes.
I think people do want that. Like,
but don't you think?
Crazy enough.
I was thinking if I was him.
Yeah.
Let's say you were that guy. It's almost better that they did have realistically, if this guy's going to jail for 60 years or whatever, I mean, it really is back to the old times. The same way that bloggers want to have and all those people that are my nemesis, they want to have public executions and they want to be their own judge and jury system, right? Mm-hmm. But if you think about with the Chauvin thing or whatever, so this guy's going to jail for 80 years. Why? Like, if you were him, let's say the whole world's like, you're the worst person in the world. You're like, you're the face of the enemy to, a big portion of the country or whatever. Wouldn't you rather just be like, you know what? Yeah, bring me out there, get it over with. Then this whole thing's done. I'm not coming back from this.
I mean, that's some people. People get into jail and then they make that decision at that point.
Well, it's hard to kill yourself, probably. Yeah. I mean, Epstein obviously did.
One of my favorite sketches I've ever seen is on Kids in the Hall, and it's like this guy comes to this warehouse. It's like I think it's Scott Thompson, Dave Foley. Guy comes to the warehouse and he's like hiring a hitman. And he goes, I want you to kill somebody. He's like, all right, give me the money. Gives him the envelope, and he goes, just wait till I'm gone to do the deal. And he goes, okay. And then he opens the envelope, and it's him. He has to kill himself or whatever. And then he's trying to like kill himself, and then he's like, he can't do it. Like, he doesn't know how to do it. And then he finally just like throws himself out of a window. But yeah,
yeah, I remember that. I was also thinking that because I watched that movie, The Jinx, that you told me to watch, which was fucking wild,
crazy, huh?
Yeah, and one interesting thing was that all the jurors are in the documentary, and they're, so a lot of these Chauvin jurors, they'll get like book deals and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
So and
they'll be like, and the thing is, they'll have to kind of be like, were you considering, and like, they'll have to be like, I wasn't like totally sold. Like it's almost better if they're not like, oh, it was a slam dunk. Like, they have to kind of maybe like pretend they're like,
they got to get their story together for their book. If I was a juror in that trial, I would be pretty worried. You know what I mean? That's the worst gig you can get. And
if it's, yeah.
You know what I mean? If you get to be the juror in that trial, and if it doesn't, if you basically have no choice, you're like, I don't know.
Do you see Greg Gutfeld?
I did see that. People weren't
happy
with him.
They were fucking, he was like, I don't care. He's like, even if he wasn't guilty, it's good that they found him guilty. And then everybody on Fox News is like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just good for, I get what he was saying, but then it's like, again, you're like, just
don't say that.
It's just also, don't say that. Also, it's just like, it goes against like so many just like American fundamental ideals. Yeah. And like, you're on Fox News saying that. So it's like, obviously you're like, they're probably just like, yeah, sponsors don't like when you say that. Like,
well, you could even phrase it. You could have even phrased it differently, that I hope, given the evidence, he actually does turn out to be guilty.
Exactly. Versus, I just hope they're like, it'll just be good for footlockers across the country if he's found guilty. And you're like, what?
Yeah. Well, one thing I was thinking about watching The Jinx, which basically it's this, big famous, billionaire in New York or whatever, kills a bunch of people.
He's the crazy like black sheep of the family, right?
Crazy black sheep of the family, kills a bunch of people, kind of thing, right? And even in this, there's a sentiment of which just kind of made me, because everything has to be a race thing in America, and even with this, there is this idea that rich people, rich, and you kind of see it all the time. It's like rich white people can kind of get away with anything or whatever, right? And they kind of spin it that way, and you go, but every country has that. If you go to Iran, the fucking rich people there that aren't white.
I've said this, and I'm not the only person who said this, but it's like,
rich people in
everybody
China
want to make
fucking
race things when you're like, it's more of a class thing. Like, all this stuff is always like, it's like you've never seen a rich person get killed by the police. unarmed rich person pulled out of their fucking Lambo and get killed by the police.
Well, unless
it
they
has
end up being a
never.
serial killer, maybe. But
But I'm saying that has never happened. It's always someone getting pulled out of like a 96 Plymouth or something. Like, yes, it's like the races, whatever, but it's like, it's never fucking like a rich person getting pulled out of their Land Rover, getting killed by the cops. It happens never.
okay.
Like it's more all this like, you know, division stuff. It's more of like class, but they want to make it race because it's easier to like take off the, you know.
They want to goat you into using statistics.
Well, yeah, they want to go using statistics. But again, it's like you want to use statistics. It's like it's only poor people who this stuff happens to generally.
Yeah, I saw Pink News. There's a character in Australia. It's a dog show, and it said basically it's called Bluey, and there's like a bunch of articles coming out, and they go an opinion piece by the ABC Everyday website. Journalist Beverly Wang shared her love for the cartoon, but also questioned why there isn't more representation. And she said that it needs
It's a blue dog.
It's a blue dog, and they're mad that there's not enough disabled, queer, or gender diverse dogs. And Wang acknowledged that the creators of the show Bluey may not, view the show through a particular political lens, but she argued it's important for children's programming to be more representation. But
Pink News is like the most ridiculous. You're like, this might as well have, if someone goes, yeah, this actually is owned by the same company that was the Onion.
yeah,
Then you go,
and
okay.
I'm sure a lot of people have made fun of this, but the thing that
I
was
haven't heard this one.
so funny to me is that, well, maybe in Australia, but that in her thing, it's kind of a lot of these people, they've stopped like hiding it because what they think is so normal to them that they don't feel the need to. But she goes, I know that this cartoon maybe not viewing this through a political lens, but they have to. And you go, like, you're admitting it. It's like you have to pretend that this is good for other reasons. They don't even pretend. They go, this cartoon needs to be politicized.
Yeah, you're like, the point of cartoons is propaganda and nothing else. They're like,
Yeah.
There's no point of like cartoons are not entertainment for children.
right.
It's like you have to be learn. I mean, I guess there's cartoons fall in the, entertainment educational category. And you could maybe say like educational cartoons do. But just to say like all cartoons have to have like a message is ludicrous.
And her message specifically. So
specifically.
every cartoon needs to be, advancing queer rights. But the funny part,
Start your own fucking cartoon.
or
And then she would basically say like, oh, it's ableist because I'm not good at doing cartoons.
I think also what would be better for these people, and again, it's almost like to some degree you have to just give them what they want too much. It's kind of like when your girlfriend says hey, can you keep your voice down? And you go, and then she comes and she goes, hey, what's up? And you go,
Yeah.
you didn't want me to talk. When you, you said you didn't want me to talk, so I'm not talking.
You just do a new cartoon. It's only like the queerest, most
That's where
disabled
that's where I'm
dogs.
going.
Where it's like she's like, I didn't mean like only.
Ruff! I just sucked another dick, and then the other dogs are just like,
all
hey,
in
I'm going to school
wheelchairs.
doing my work. It's like I'm going to the fucking dog bathhouse. Fucking the dog comes back covered in cum. I'm a fucking dog.
He was like, is this the message you'd like to be sending to little children?
Just like a bulldog with a wig. Why do no dogs want to hump me? These dogs are transphobic. These dogs are bigots. It's just the biggest, like basically the Tasmanian devil, but he's got a girl's wig on.
And then the show would get canceled, and she'd just be like, good.
Yeah,
That's
and you
good.
go, are you happy?
Yeah.
You got what you want. Just a butch lesbian dog. Let's play baseball. I'm a woman. Yeah, I think you have to just in some case, and then you go, what? You asked for this. I just went. Honestly, you said you wanted gay people, so I went down to the local gay club and observed their behavior, which is why this dog has nipple tassels on. I go, did you want it to be accurate? I went down to Zippers, and I observed what the men there were doing, and that's why.
Yeah.
So,
Like, it's like, unfortunately, I'm not gay, so I still have this show to write.
I watched this show. And so I've said this, it's not really one of my pet peeves, but sometimes it's a little too aggressive. But every show has like tons of gay people now, and they're all trying to do this, right? Mm-hmm. So I started watching this show, The One, which I will not be finishing because I was tricked into watching it. They said, oh, it's not a girl show. So the premise of the show is that it's a dating app, a new dating app where they take your DNA and they get you the perfect one.
Sounds like an episode of Black Mirror.
It's one, you nailed it. That's what it is, but for girls 100%. Right? They go,
That was the one that your girl
person.
recommended that I got roped into watching with mine, is that whatever Beyond Her or something. And
No, it sounds like a piece
total
of garbage.
chick
But
show.
so
Garbage chick show.
there's but in this, they give people matches, and sometimes they match them up with a girl, and she goes, I'm not a lesbian, but maybe, I guess, if that's the one. And then so they don't, sometimes they match guys with guys. They're willy-nilly with the gender matches. And you go, stop it.
It's not about sex. They're like, it's not about sexuality.
So everyone's a lesbian. So they match these people up, and the girl cop, she's not a lesbian, and then she just starts being a lesbian. She goes,
I mean, we all know a lot of girls who that happened to. It's not that crazy.
can you imagine you signed up for a dating app and you have to pay dating app? It's a high dollar ticket too. You pay $100, and here's your fucking match.
Hey, you're
one.
gay.
We matched you with your perfect match, Doug.
Can I pay more money to not get the gay one? Is that an option?
Well, also, so they have all these lesbians. They have a disabled character. So they've started slipping in disabled character. The main guy, his mom just has one arm, and they never really mention it.
Degrassi was so ahead of its time. They had disabled people,
Yeah, they were.
gay people, like in the 80s.
Yeah, but this it's so obvious because it's just so, it's obviously a chick show. But I've said this before, but you know how they talk about the Weschel test where they go, okay, women, we do all these movies to make sure that, because every movie and TV show, a girl is always through the lens of a man. That's kind of the test I'm talking about.
No.
Okay, so
I think I've heard of it.
it was this big thing that was taken off. So essentially, they never just have girl characters that just exist among themselves. They're always kind of, in the relationship to a guy or something like that, right? And then you watch a girl show and every single one's about boys. It's like,
100%.
make a fucking show that isn't about dating.
I can straight up watch a show and then I could tell you who wrote it.
Every single
I
time.
can guess the gender of who
It's
wrote it.
at the very
Which
least,
is
it's
fine.
for.
Which is honestly, I'm not
Make
mad
your
about
fucking girl shows
that's the
for
thing.
girls.
I'm not. The thing is, I don't get mad about that. Where I'm like, what the fuck? I'm just like, yeah.
I kind of got mad about it because I got
Well,
conned into watching it.
You get conned into watching it, but a few minutes in, you're like, yeah, this isn't for me.
The audacity.
That's
She goes,
fine.
Oh, she goes, it's honestly a unisex show. Okay, so The Expendables is unisex too, then, as far as I'm concerned, if we're going down this path.
Yeah.
It's also it's just it's essentially porn for women to fucking, imagine a world where there's a perfect one out there waiting for you. You just have to find them. And they have the thing. And luckily, they always find you the one in your own city.
Right,
It's like, the whole thing is just such a fucking joke. And then they...
It's not I guess it's like sci-fi?
No, it's supposed to be in real world. It's not sci-fi.
But is it supposed to be in the future or currently?
No, they nailed. This is tomorrow. They fucking,
This is 23andMe's next thing.
23andMe's next thing.
Here's $150. You're fucking gay, bud.
And then on top of that, the idea of the one, you go, they always meet the one, and then everyone's leaving their wives and husbands or whatever. But if you met someone, they go, this is your perfect one or whatever. First of all, you meet up, she's gross, I'm out. And
I'm not attracted to this person at all. I go,
they don't match the one-arm girl up with a one, or you match that. You get the fucking guy who started 8chan, the 2 feet tall in a wheelchair, and she's a supermodel, and you go, we did the DNA test.
That's kind of, you know what? You know what book I'm reading right now is Brave New World.
Play girl.
Play Girl. That's riveting. But Brave New World, Aldous Huxley or whatever, it was on Jordan Peterson's, it was his #1 book you should read.
Okay.
So I was like, whatever, I'll read it. And it's pretty good, but it's from 1930, but it's about this essentially futuristic society where people are not it's kind of a bit like this, where it's people aren't in relationships.
4 legs.
Jesus.
You put in the money in the jar, and then when you get to 100, you have to blow a dude. that'll keep him off.
I have to pay them with my money to blow them. But
okay.
I'm not finished reading it, but it's basically this futuristic society where people are bred by the government, essentially breeds you in a lab, and everybody's bred, and they're all these different caste systems, but kind of has that vibe to it a bit, like what you're talking about. They kind of feel maybe rip this off a bit, where they're
they probably ripped this off of a million things, but essentially they're ripping it off of the idea that girls, there is this perfect person that's out there for you and whatever. And you go, okay, if you met up with this perfect person, and by the way, this is the conversation that I'm having, and she's getting mad at me because she's like, shut up. Mm-hmm. And I go, okay, so what if they matched you with your perfect, because she's asking me questions. She goes, well, if you match with the perfect one, would you want to go talk to him? I go, this
was on Cosby Show when he was...
Listen, if you get the perfect one, and then if you meet up and you go, and then she's fucking, her life's a mess. She fucking hangs out with all her old boyfriends. She's one of those girls that thinks everyone's amazing. I go, you know what I mean? I'm already out. I don't care if you, but your DNA. I go, I'll fucking give her a little bit of DNA and then I'll leave.
Just enough. Yeah, that is a pretty dumb premise.
It's ridiculous.
That's like a college student got high for the first time and came up with that.
It's
they're
not.
Look, what if your DNA perfectly linked you to only one person in the world?
And also that's the other thing.
How many fucking Malaysian people were in this show?
None, zero. So everyone's hot. So it's just
at least I don't mind that we're kind of going back to that. Remember, like TV
that's
just all of a
fine.
sudden,
Yes, well,
like how TV used to be only hot people.
Well, they can't show that. Imagine you show up to your match. He's 800 pounds, and you go, "I'm your match." And then on top of that, you go, "Okay, so." If you said this person's your perfect match, he's 99.999% match. Okay. What was the next guy under that? 99.8 and 99988. Okay. Well, show me the 5,000 other people that were basically the same, and maybe I'll pick from one of those.
Yeah.
The whole thing is just a fucking.
Are they 100% matches? Or
I don't. Yeah, it's the ding ding ding.
Ding, ding, ding.
This person you got to spend the rest of your life
that
with.
Is idiot.
And it's a dude.
Where's this, Netflix?
Amazon, I think.
Amazon. And sometimes it's gay. You're gay.
Sometimes you're gay.
And is the other person being like, so we're gay, huh? Like, are they both showing up to find out they're gay?
They only show that with girls, and mostly because but they have a lot of gay guys in the show. No, there was the guy one. They had the opposite. They had a guy.
But it's like two Rick Rowleys show up and be like, oh, I guess that's our buddy from Canada. But you go, oh, so I guess we're on a fucking date, eh?
No, they did it the other way with guys. So they had a guy that was gay. You know, he had a little twink living with him, and he was fucking the shit out of this guy. And then they go, your match is a girl, and he goes, I haven't stopped thinking about you. Maybe I'm not gay, you know?
Oh. So being gay is a choice, is what you're saying.
So
they
basically said being gay is a
based
choice.
Show.
Being
Being gay is a choice.
So anyways, back to this girl, she's, as a parent of color, I'm always conscious of the presence or absence of diverse representation in kids' pop culture. So she can't watch a single thing. Guardian's Australian political reporter said the amount of hate being directed towards Wang, Austin Powers, was the reason why this country can never have a serious conversation. And I just thought, is there anything funnier than someone going, they need more trans fucking dogs in cartoons? And then you go, no one wants to have a serious conversation about this. We're the problem that don't want to have a serious conversation.
That was remember
because
after
we don't
George
have fucking
Floyd, Paw Patrol was like, people were like, we got to cancel Paw Patrol because it was like a dog.
Yeah, we put it in the Marcus
right.
sketch.
Yeah, the dog that's police. It's like,
dogs aren't disabled enough. Dogs got to have fucking no legs.
I mean, there is something really cute about it when you see those dogs with like
their
back legs don't.
You could
work.
have that.
Yeah.
One person called for this show to give a main character a trans friend or a gay aunt. That's a good stereotype. Auntie Maureen is here. Let's make jewelry. I love. What's that guy's name? And they all, I like Beto. I'm a Beto O'Rourke head.
Beto head.
Lesbians love that guy. People exist. These dogs are stand-ins for people. Anyways, so I was, and those are the things where you go, yeah, these people are off your tree, blah, blah, blah. You want fucking kids to have knife fights, all this stuff. But the one thing that I thought was funny is, so Buzzfeed released their top problematic songs of all time. And this is a 2021 article, right? So
yeah.
I have a few of them here. But the thing that they do that always fucking, before even I'll go through some of them. But the funny part, my take is that what these people all do, and they say, you're going to want to update your classic rock playlist after leading this.
By the way, this is the equivalent, because like, you know how we hate for comedians when they break down lyrics, and then they're basically just like Buzzfeed.
That's what Buzzfeed's doing, breaking down lyrics. Yeah, we always say the worst comedian thing that, I mean, there's so many comedians. Once you probably hear this, it's one thing that'll annoy you too. But there's different forms of this, but they go, Ja Rule, Bruno Mars, I'll catch a grenade for you or something. And they go, really, Bruno Mars?
No, yeah.
You're going to catch a grenade? Really, Bruno Mars?
That is a joke that someone we know does.
I'm just fucking partying for 6 days straight. 6 days! You're in the club.
When are you going to bed?
So they close the club. They open it back up. But actually, but
No,
again, I sometimes
who
I
feel
love the
bad
Will
for?
Smith one. I
feel bad for the first person who broke down lyrics and was like, they're like, I've never heard this before. This is incredible stuff.
I never thought
And then
that.
everybody was like, wait, we could just do that?
I'm gonna fuck you till 8 a.m. Don't you go to work?
Yeah, what do you do for a living?
But I still, despite the fact that I hate it, like anything else, the right lyric brought down always got me. There's nothing it still gets me to this day. The Will Smith, his song "First In It, Last One Out the Club," and it's not that me saying, well, it is, but the classic is like you're the first one there, whatever. But to me, the part that's so funny is Will Smith wrote this to sound cool.
Yeah,
You know, like it's like Will Smith has never been to a club because I'm the first one in the club, last one there. But again, I'm doing it, when you break it down, you go, so the club hasn't started and you're in line.
You're like the ultimate keener.
And then the janitor's sweeping the floors.
Yeah.
Will, we're closed. So
You know what it was? Probably
that always made me laugh, even
when
though
he
it's
was
a
like,
breaking down lyric.
Probably when he was doing it too, people were like, his producer was like, hey, yeah, like
Will likes to party, dude.
it should be like maybe like the last one there and first one out makes more sense because you're
That-
Will,
you're so
you're
cool,
Will
because
Smith.
you're so sick.
But then people probably all yes men around him and they go like, yeah, Will, first
Yeah,
one in.
of course. But yeah, so it's not always, it is what it is. Every rule has an exception. First one in it, last one out. The club's my exception to the rule. But the thing that these people always do is they break down. They say, look at all these problematic things, and one of them's a microaggression. One of them is, offensive language, and the other one's like raping a chick. You know what I mean? And they go, oh, these things need to stop. And you go, this is not the same. And it's this trick to make you think that because everyone agrees that like rape's bad.
Oh yeah,
And then so they,
it is.
I'll tell you, definitely agrees. Fucking jail guys in jail.
Sorry, I just have to press this one.
That was another thing that I was thinking is that, do you think that jail should be a hub for LGBT positivity? Like if they're going to say,
do you watch a lot of jail TikTok?
no,
You don't watch it at all?
hey, you got to stop playing on your phone.
Sorry, I had to get a NBA Top Shot pack. It was time sensitive. I can't. I know it's rude, and I wouldn't ever do that during a podcast. But it's actually like I couldn't do it any other time. It's like they give you your 5 minutes to get it, and it's like
Danny's a grown man that spends 90% of his
it's for
days.
it's for the other podcast. It's my
looking
only
for-
chance of beating Matt. It's the only chance I have of beating Matt. He's up. I'm literally down 20 grand. So if people don't know, I have this other podcast for hard money called the $1 Million Podcast, and I have this NFT podcast against Matt's stock podcast, and I'm getting fucking creamed right now. He's up like 20 grand or something, and I'm like down 5. And the only chance I have is to get one of these stupid packs and pull a fucking $25,000 card.
When we were writing the movie in Miami, Danny wanted to pull into a Walmart at fucking midnight to see if maybe they had this pack of cards on sale when it was a 0%
That never
chance.
happened.
Yeah, I did.
When?
When we were in Miami, you were driving me home and you go, hey, do you
No,
mind?
I was talking about it, but I went to the I went to the
Oh, now he remembers.
Yeah, no, it was I was like Walmart, it was a Target.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
So, but they go, okay, so the first is blurred lines. That's big for them. I hate these blurred lines. I know. But by the way, a lot of these they've covered too, where they go, what if, remember all those, how we wrote an article about all these are bad? Why don't we just do a combo article about all the
Right.
bad songs? But there's one or two of these I agreed with. That's why I thought it was funny.
You know what I
there's
would
one or
love-
two they put in, I go, yeah.
You know what I would actually love to see? Sorry to cut you off, but like if this went super viral, remember when Steve Jobs died? And then they were like, remember back then we had like, and now we have like No Hope, No Job, like Bob Hope, Steve Jobs, and what was the other one? Remember? And they're like, now we have No Hope, No Jobs. Like it was like that joke.
Okay.
What was the third one? Do you
I don't
remember?
know.
Anyways, and then like it was a huge
And
meme.
girls have no bushes.
Whatever it was like there was like No Hope, No Jobs, and it was about like Steve Jobs, Bob Hope, and somebody else. And then that night I saw a comedian in Toronto do that. And I was like, the fucking nerve of you, a hugely viral meme, and you're doing it on stage. Like, it was at the Josh Elijah's show or whatever. I was like, are you kidding me that you just did this? It's like the biggest meme today, and you just are on stage doing this joke like nobody saw that meme today. And then, but it was just funny if like some comic just did like all these songs as one bit.
Yeah.
Like this is someone's bit.
They just read the article. I hate these blurred lines. You know you want it. You know you want it. Blah blah blah. So that was that one. They've been through this a million times, and and any normal person's been in a scenario where they go, yeah, like you've been with someone where like she probably is down, but she doesn't want to seem like a slut. Is kind of the
Yeah.
whatever.
That was before the internet. Like if you watch TV, that was the whole thing. Is women were like, you can't be
Don't
too
have sex
eager,
on the first
but
day.
you can't be too eager. You got to be like modest. And then like there was this shift where, but women were always, told like you have to be modest.
Well,
and,
they
like,
are true, but-
pay hard to get that, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That was like a normal thing. And then, so it's
harder
guys
for them to
had
play hard to get now, with especially that with Tinder and everyone putting it out and all that stuff. Because if a girl is like a 6 and she goes on a date with you, unless you're like way lower than her, and she goes, I don't sleep together on the 4th date. You go, oh, good luck for whoever that is.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting killed by it's like they've
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand. They've just basically been plugged into the market. And
Yeah.
you're like,
if anything,
just an
they should be
input.
mad at the girl for, if they should say to the girl, this is 2021. If you want to have sex with them, you shouldn't be, holding back. If anything, this was the problem with the girl.
But it is a kind of like amazing thing how it's forcing it almost like forces this like perfect like equilibrium of people having to match up with people like
It does.
if it's like or be alone. Or be like just so unaware of
There's
where
a lot of
you
girls out
actually
there
stand.
that, they think they're so much better than they are.
Yeah, they think they're a 10, and you're like, I'm telling you, nothing in the
If
world.
a girl's
is-
hot, let's say you're on the market and you're out there smashing, just fucking college boy out there smashing.
Smoshing.
And then, every guy, every dude like that's probably been in a scenario where you go, you're talking to some smoking chick, right? And she goes, I don't do stuff on the first date. And you're like, yeah, okay. I'm like talking to 3 other girls, so I'll keep smashing them and then maybe play the long game on this one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then she has to be like, oh, fuck, like, I actually do want to, but, like, I don't want to come off as a slut.
And you go, yeah,
well,
no
too
problem.
bad, because I'm dating all these chicks who do want to come off as sluts and don't care about that. So I guess if you want to figure this out,
No,
how
but
do
if
feel
you
about
are
this?
hot and you want to fucking lock a dude down as like a boyfriend and you are trying to do that, it's like there is something to be said about that move. And that might,
Yeah, that's what
I
you
might
want.
be more likely to fucking date someone or whatever if they did that. I might think, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like the
Kinda
cow,
cool.
the milk and the cow thing. Why buy the cow if you get the milk for
Right.
free?
But at the same time, you smash
Literally, it's the oldest saying too, and you're like,
Why
don't be a
buy it?
slut.
Yeah.
Don't be a slut.
Why fuck the cow? Why fuck a cow?
Why fuck a cow? We should update this.
You go on a date with a 6 and she goes, listen, I don't really fuck on the first date. And you go, why fuck the cow when I got milk at home?
I got plenty of milk at home.
Okay, and then so they go that one, and then they go the Beatles. Let this be a sermon. I mean everything I said, baby. I'm determined, and I'd rather see you dead. You better run for your life if you can, little girl. Hide your head in the sand. So he's saying that I'd kill you if
That's a bit much. But then the one thing I would say is I don't remember what song that is. But what if they're like, oh, this is someone else, like the song is like it's not us singing it. It's it's a character almost.
Well, I mean, that's the same thing. They have Eminem on this list, and you go, trying to kill your wife? He's literally talking about murdering his wife. It's like, okay, well, every show and everything in the world, whatever. They like to focus on lyrics and thing or whatever. But then my problem is everyone reads these and goes, okay, whatever. He's saying, I'd rather be, I want you so bad. If you're with someone else, I'd rather you be dead. And you go, okay, everyone knows it's a trope almost, or whatever, right? And then the next one, well, I don't care if you're just 13. You look too good to be Ted Nugent.
Is that Nugent?
Yeah, Ted Nugent, the gun guy. I just know that you're probably clean. There's one thing I got to do to you. Jailbait, you look so good to me. Jailbait, you want to set me free.
Holy fuck!
That's wild.
That did not age well.
And then you go, you know what, BuzzFeed, I'll give you this one.
Yeah, that is crazy.
But then-
I have to fact check. Like, did you that seems so crazy. But also so crazy is when he came out with that song, which probably like the 70s or something.
Yeah.
Totally normal.
I guess.
Nobody
I mean,
was
it's
like-
called Jailbait, so it wasn't
But
that
I'm saying nobody was saying
Yeah, he got
don't
away
do
with
this.
it. But yeah, I just think it's so funny that they go, this song, and guys like, if you can't be with me, I love you so much that you'll never be with anyone. Songs like that, and this song, 2 months old and she's out cooking my dick.
I wonder if he fought to get that on the album too. Like the producer's like, you know what? We got a great album. We don't need the Jailbait.
No,
thing.
they changed it. It was originally 11.
Yeah. Because,
Well, I don't care if you're just 13 months. Can we get rid of the months?
He's in the studio writing a song. He goes, hey, what's the minimum age of consent in America? And they go, 13. He goes, all right, 13.
He's there, Jailbait, you look so good to them. And he's like giving the thumbs up to the producers for good stuff, right? And they go, I mean, I guess. But they try to combine these things. It's, a song about, like Kim, like, if I'm gonna fucking slit your throat, it's obviously playing like a character thing. And then the another one of like, I had sex with a nursery. It's just so funny.
I wonder if he plays that now.
He probably can. I wonder, because Ted Nugent's like the ultimate conservative guy.
Yeah, super conservative. Yeah, there's no way people are at his show and he goes, I'm going to come out for an encore.
Put the lighters up.
Put the lighters up. Jailbait, jailbait, jailbait. All right. I'll play jailbait.
She's 13 years old. Ripe.
People are like high five.
So fresh and so ripe. I like them young. All right, everybody, chant it with me. 13, so fresh and so clean.
I wonder if he has like a 25-year-old wife and you're like, ooh.
Well, right now he's got
like
25
right now
right.
you're
Right.
Like,
But yeah, he became the gun guy, and I guess maybe that's why. A lot of the songs are about the really young people, are about her dad says it's not fun, but dad don't know shit. You know what I mean? There's the law.
what do you know about consent?
This is probably a huge hit in fucking Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Imagine Ted.
Well, they don't have such a thing.
At ISIS.
Jailbait's not a concept there.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's...
What, they're like, why doesn't he just marry her?
I think you just forcibly marry her when she's 11, and that way you
Well,
won't
if
have
you
to...
ask dad for marriage, problem be solved. I'm Russian now.
You have one accent. You literally have one accent.
I can do Russian.
It's a
though.
catch-all.
My Russian's my catch-all. I was doing the other. I
it's
was trying to do, because this is a British show, and I was trying to do the British accent, and it was really abysmal, really, really bad. Jimmy, yeah,
That's better than your Russian, honestly.
my Russian is not that bad.
My Russian is not that-
And then they go, never judge a book by its cover. They do not like this one. Who will?
That's a good message.
Who you
though.
gonna
Don't
love
judge a book by its
by your
cover.
lover? Love put me wise to her love in disguise. She had the body of Venus. Dude looks like a lady. They do not like dude looks like a lady.
Yeah. I'd say mildly transphobic songs.
That's mildly so trans fucking phobic. But the best part, and in their
From the
description, they go,
70s.
this song plays into the idea that trans women are just in disguise or trying to trick or trap people. It was the song made for Mrs. Doubtfire. And the premise of that movie was a man in disguise to trick people.
That would be
And you go, yeah, no, that is what was happening.
You know what we should do is a sketch like a cock rock where they're like, she's definitely a woman.
Miss Doubtfire.
No, but it's like a trans person. But they're like, she was born a woman, even though she's a man.
Woman, did it?
Like all the-
woman is a woman. Did it? Trans women are women.
Yeah, like exactly.
Yeah,
like
some version
all
of
the
that.
woke talking voice, a cock rock. Like,
Did it? That's a woman's penis. Hit me with your.
and then I started sucking on a penis.
Yeah, so-
It's the penis of a woman.
The touch of a woman's penis.
Nothing gay about that.
And there ain't nothing gay about that. A country song about sucking on my partner's cock. Ain't nothing gay about that.
She was born a woman, still a woman.
Got a big dick in my mouth. Brushing on the back of my throat. Ooh, the soft touch of a woman. The soft touch of a woman on the back of my throat with the cock. So they do not like dude looks like a lady.
No.
That's a big one. That's a big problem for them. But yeah, you go. It's playing into the thing that they're just trying to disguise this trick of woman. You know, that is legitimately what the purpose of that is. The Miss Doubtfire
That is
soundtrack.
the entire conceit.
I mean, they don't like Miss Doubtfire either, but
Is Miss Doubtfire
well, in that thing, the
considered,
Jinx,
like,
the guy
pretty problematic?
yeah, it's of course. In the Jinx, the guy dresses up like a woman to disguise, to trick people, but everything's sexual with these people. Some people, it is a good disguise to dress up like a woman.
Absolutely.
The guy's very funny, and they go, "Why'd you dress up like a woman?" He goes, "Well, if I dress up like a man, people would recognize me. I mean, maybe I could grow a beard, but what else could I do? I dress up like a woman." Everything's nonchalant with him.
Yeah, he's-
you know, they don't like Barbie girl and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But what's the other one here? John Mayer, they don't like. On behalf of every man, out for every girl, you are the God, you are the weight of her world. So fathers, be good to your daughters.
Daughters is problematic.
Daughters will love you. Girls become lovers and turn into mothers. So mothers, be good to your daughters. And they say daughters is disturbing, to be honest.
Really?
They watch
That's
that and
like,
they go,
I think I've heard like a
give
lot
them
of
the
like
chills.
Feminist chicks who are into that song.
No,
They're
this
like,
one gave them the fucking chills, dude. Fathers, be good to your daughters. Girls become lovers. Gives off just creepy vibes.
That's it.
No, he says he sees women as objects, and now the only thing they're good for is loving men and making babies. This song, I used to play this song at my work all the time, and it fucking disgusts me, she says.
Why didn't it disgust her then?
Because she's woke, she's learned now, she's better.
But she didn't understand what words meant then?
Well, yeah, it's just so funny, too.
Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, did you not, like, know what the words were? She's
Well,
probably singing along to it, and then she's like...
She didn't realize the undertone that women were objects. But know what the funny part, too, is you go, with something like this, when would you ever have, if anything, the takeaway here should be, hey, maybe girls should, would you ever hear a song from girls being, women be good to your sons become bloggers, and bloggers become, whatever. But no, it's like, no, you should be mean to your sons, and you don't need a song to say it.
Be mean to your son.
Women
So
be
mothers, be mean to your sons.
Women be mean to your sons. Sons
become
become
murderers.
Sons become murderers and whatever.
Turn into rapists.
And sons become rapists and rapists become. So mothers be mean to your sons. That's what they want. But you go. Yeah, he's saying being nice to women, whatever. It's like, they're off the reservation. And then they go,
That's the equivalent of the you people, basically. It's like, oh, what's... And you go, you people. Like, it's like,
Yeah,
what do you mean, mothers? Daughters? What are you fucking saying? It's like, remember Danny Martinello said that? He was like at a show at the Comedy Bar, and he said, he's like, what are all you females? And they go, females? It was like all like, there was like the Crimson Wave, and they were all like, females?
oh, yeah.
And he's just like, what?
Are you not a female? Maybe I am, maybe I'm not.
But they were like so angry that he referred to them as females.
Oh my God.
Like indignant.
Then they don't like this Jamie Foxx song. Just one more round and you're going down. I know it. Fill another cup up. Feeling on your butt. What, you don't care? I was unaware of how fine you were before my buzz set in. Men encouraging women to drink until they regret what they do. Made me think about all the songs I listened to back in high school and how they were also problematic. So she's basically, she had to delete her entire Spotify playlist.
Do you think these people had fun high schools?
Well, yeah, because she wasn't like this before. She could jam out to a Jamie Foxx song. But also, if you listen to it, he's also saying himself, he said, I didn't realize you were so fine. He's saying that I'm Jamie Foxx and I'm fucking grinding up against some.
What's this song called? Beer Goggles?
The song's called, basically, that's what I'm saying.
It's like a song about beer goggles.
Well, that's what he says. He goes, never realized how fine till my buzz set in. If anything, they could be like, well, what does it matter if she's fine?
Yeah.
Well,
What if she is
every
used to
girl's
be a he or
every
is fine
girl's
or
fine,
not
yeah. But I just think it's funny because they go, yeah. I mean, definitely. On top of that, you go, if you're on a date, you go, yeah, let's get a couple pops down the hatch. Jamie Foxx isn't saying like, I never realized how fine till she's unconscious on the floor. He's saying, yeah, let's have some fucking pops. And also, I probably got a wife.
So keep this on the DL.
Yeah, I got a wife. And also, you're gross. And I'm
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx. So you're right. I'm going to take an extra few shots to make this go down the hatch.
I gotta say, Bill Cosby's lucky he never got into music. Like, he could have done like the Shatner thing so easily, and he probably would have been dead to rights on so much shit.
I like the idea of saying that how can you separate the man from the artist, and you're just like, you're really into like, George Bush's art.
I was actually thinking the other day how crazy the whole Bill Cosby thing is. Like, to step back from it and just think like he was the most, like, one of the most famous comedians, like actors, everything.
Yeah.
And he's just gonna die in jail. And at like 70 or 85 or whatever how old he was.
I mean, in his
happened.
mind, he had a good run. If you look at it through the lens of him, you go, he's probably to some degree thinking, what took you so long?
Right. But he had he was all about his legacy. He had this crazy legacy, the father family.
That depends on how whimsical you are. I kind of think once you're dead, you're dead. So, that narcissism that comes from,
he's like, everybody says he's the craziest narcissist.
Oh, of course. I see what you're saying. For him specifically. Well, maybe you should get over that. But that idea of, what about when I'm gone? It's like, you're gone. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the people that, you fucking leave jobs and you want the other workplace to keep remembering you. You left them in the dust. Who cares what
now
they
we got
do?
no hope, no jobs. And
Anyway, so do you remember Usher when Usher got herpes allegedly from this 500-pound girl?
Yeah, and she said, "Did you see the Usher bucks? Is this what we're talking about?"
No, but basically, I just thought it was always funny that the reason why Usher fucked her is because he was on stage and he pointed to a hot girl that he wanted them to bring backstage because she's so big.
No, not you.
Yeah, she's just so fat. Everyone goes, "All right, we'll bring her back," and he's like, "Not her." And we go, "Listen, that where you pointed to her."
Did you see the Usher bucks thing? Though?
So what happened?
Oh my God, I can't believe you don't know this. Okay,
right.
so Usher got called out. He goes to strip clubs. He's a big strip club guy.
Okay.
And he has his own money. So they're like they're $100 bills.
Okay.
They look like US $100 bills, but they have his face on them. And he makes them rain Usher bucks.
Oh my God.
So all these strippers are like, he's the cheapest piece of shit on earth. He's not even giving us dollars. Like
so you can't
Usher.
trade them in?
No, they're joke. Like it's gag money that looks like US dollars.
See, I would have assumed the idea was that you can now trade those bucks in.
We're at the bank of Usher?
No.
It's no, it's just like
at the
he's
strip
like
club.
I'm Usher. No. He's just like I'm Usher.
He goes,
Usher
stop
bucks for
it.
Dude, people were
Would you have the guts to do Danny bucks?
I'd rather remember
do you
when
take Danny bucks?
Remember when we went to the strip club and then because I had never been to one like this. I don't know if it's an American thing where the girls dance and they just come up to you and ask you for money. Like
Yeah, that was
after,
strange.
And then they
walk around and you have to tip because that guy we hung out with, your buddy, he's super into strip clubs and he would just have a thing, and it was kind of like a street performance where afterwards it was just customary to.
But instead of passing the bucket, you're the bucket, and you walk around everybody and you guilt them into like, give me $5 or something for that dance. But I thought the whole system was they dance, you throw money at them. Like that's how they get paid.
Maybe this is a pandemic provision.
I don't think so. I think that's how it works.
That was insane.
But that was weird because in any strip club in Canada I've ever been to, definitely not like that, where they just walk around and they go, give us money.
No, that was nuts.
Yeah. But anyways, Usher bucks.
Okay, Usher bucks. They didn't like one of the Usher songs, and then "Baby It's Cold Inside," Katy Perry, "You're So Gay," and then they have R. Kelly, "Age Is Just a Number," which again was about a 13-year-old.
Katy Perry has a song called "You're So Gay."
Yeah, and it's whatever, stupid. But okay, we're getting past an hour here. But but I did want to talk about one kind of a bigger thing that's more intricate or whatever. But before that, I wanted to announce. So as of now. We have this new studio that we're going to be moving into soon. But as of now, me and Danny will be doing 2 episodes a week. So, a lot of new people join the Patreon. Every week, there's going to be an extra episode on the Patreon weekly. And I used to be do bi-weekly, so it's switched to weekly. $5 if you want to join. Come join the movement. Taking this podcast to the top. Support the kids. And
the studio ain't cheap. So.
No, this is the thing. I'm taking all of the money as of now from this podcast and essentially investing it all back in. And if anything, probably losing money because I'm spending so much. Mm-hmm. And we'll figure all that out as we go.
Spend money to make money, baby.
Yeah. So join the Patreon. All that money is going directly back into things, like literally not taking any of it almost. So yeah, support that, and one a week is new episode. But before that, there was something that I did want to talk about because, so we talk a lot about, and kind of what I was saying before. It's like censorship and all that stuff's probably the enemy, right? And I kind of say a lot that, which is sort of more the libertarian argument that I don't think the government's going to do a good job if they get involved, and a lot of people kind of comment on that, and I know there's very divided sort of ideas on what people should do about it, right? And so this guy, I thought this was a pretty fair comment, and I wanted us to comment on what we think about in terms of censorship and what do you think is the best, with all the social media companies and the 230 and everything. Mm-hmm. So this person says, I love Ryan, but one of his points that always annoys me, he says every time he talks about communications companies censoring people, that we shouldn't get the government involved. What he doesn't understand about these companies like Facebook and Twitter is that they would be legally held responsible for anything anyone says on their platform if they weren't operating under Constitutional Safe Harbor Act, which is 230, I guess. Mm-hmm. But as a result, they are legally allowed to censor and prioritize certain people, as it is a breaking the federal guidelines that is Safe Harbors that the Safe Harbor Act set up. These companies should be held responsible for their censorship by the government. So they're sort of saying that. and I don't think it's like a bad faith comment, but they're sort of saying that, and so I'll hear where your take is on this too, of what, because I've talked about this a lot, but to me, it sort of boils down to that I understand that, and that is the conundrum. So you kind of, so what's the goal here is to, have as least censorship as possible. And to me, there's three options that companies have right now. And one is that, Facebook, because all these companies, when they go and argue at Parliament or whatever, they have the left-wing people grill them and then the right-wing people grill them. So they're grilled by both sides. And you have both sides, the social pressure. So the government is reacting to social pressure, both sides. The right-wing government's reacting to the fact that conservatives are being sensitive at a higher level, and comedians sort of fall under, we just sort of get killed by that.
Yeah.
Because, you're questioning the mainstream narrative or whatever. And then the liberals, there's huge social pressure. People always want to take away their freedoms. They'll always vote against their freedoms, and they're pressuring their Congress people to get in their face and get their clips of telling Zuckerberg, you need to, why is this on your platform? And so some people think that the government should essentially get involved, and and I get what the issue is, because they say to libertarians are kind of like private companies should be able to do whatever they want. But the issue is, well, these private companies are so in bed with all the government organizations, and they essentially have a monopoly on speech. Exactly.
Again, it's
right.
like every utility started as a private company, and then the government was essentially said, you're too important, and you can't just you provide all the electricity for New York City. You can't do whatever the fuck you want.
Which to some degree, that's probably the part that I agree with. And even so, if that was the case, there's an argument to be made that is not, let's get the government involved in speech. That's a straight up, a law thing where it's like, no, there already is in free market capitalism, monopoly issues. If you're running a monopoly, which they essentially have a monopoly on, what would be, this, like you said, it's no one can say, oh, this guy's racist, let's cut off his water. You're not allowed to do that. Or we don't agree with this guy's political
But you can cut off their bank account.
But you can't cut off their telephone service. Yeah.
But you could make it so difficult for them to get a telephone. You really can, actually.
I see what you're saying.
With the credit card, you shut down all their credit cards and everything, and legit, you can kind of cut. I don't know how much you can cut how many people are actually getting cut off from straight up losing their bank account versus payment processors, which is a different thing, because you're a business at that point. Versus,
I think with personal people, it's a little more difficult than we're talking about. But I guess the question is, and this is kind of where I see it, I see a ton of pressure from both sides. And the problem to begin with, and maybe you can say, okay, that's where we are, is that the government's so fucking wound up in all this stuff. And okay, so when you have the companies like, let's say, Zuckerberg and all these people, there's probably three different types of owners. One, what Zuckerberg is, in my opinion now, that they know they're just straight up going to use all this for regulatory capture. And when you go the 230 thing, there isn't a scenario where these companies can operate on without 230. So if you said these companies are liable, so all this is a threat essentially to say, hey, all you can say is, which already is in place, but they're not enforcing it. So you're saying, hey, the government should do this. Well, exactly. They haven't for 5-6 years. So you have a scenario where you go, okay, if you took away Section 230, which means every social media company can now get sued for everything that's on their platform. It essentially means that no one can be a social media company. There's no way that
it can't exist. You're a publisher at that point, right?
You're a publisher at that point. No one could handle lawsuits. So at the very least, it would mean that only those companies could. And that's why all these big social media companies are so behind all this stuff. And they agree, they want Mark Zuckerberg went in front of Congress and he goes, we have 20,000 people going through and deleting stuff. And we actually think you should make it higher. So you should make laws higher. And you go, well, yeah, it's like obvious regulatory capture where you go, yeah, no shit. You want the government to make a bunch of laws so no one could ever be a social media company again. And you got in.
Well, I don't. There's not going to be. I think that ship has sailed.
I mean, this happened in the last 4 years. Parler was getting big. There's tons.
I don't know if Parler was ever giving Facebook any sort of.
Well, I don't know. It was Twitter, becoming pretty big. I mean, you're saying.
I don't think not to that degree. Parler's coming back, by the way.
Okay, I know. I think it already is back, just on phones or whatever. But my point is, and that is very.
Parler sucked.
Okay, but whatever. But my point is, there's smaller ones, and all of the government stuff just helps these huge companies to have more of their monopoly. And I think I guess what I sort of see is I go, and maybe this is what I'm missing. Tell me one scenario where the government took on the problem and it ended with more freedoms. Do you know what I mean? Where you go, hey, here's your like constitution and that's what it is or whatever. Let's get the government involved more. And then you ended at the other side of that with more freedoms. I've only seen the government because the government is accountable to citizens and citizens want their freedoms taken away always.
Yeah.
So to me, the idea of getting the government involved in this, well, I see what people think. They go, well, if conservatives could just get their act together and they can control the government, we could sort of.
They just did.
What do you mean with Trump?
Yeah.
And where it didn't happen?
No, because it's first off, you're not going to please. There's no scenario where they go, okay, here's the perfect solution. Everybody's happy. Right?
Yeah.
It's never going to happen. You're always going to have.
Well, I mean, the best thing that I think this David Sachs guy says that, and some people are saying this, which probably the closest solution that I agree with is that because what I said, they're the first one is the ones that have regulatory capture. That love this. The second one is the Twitters, which I think actually legitimately have some type of political agenda. And then the third one, and this may be to some degree Zuckerberg when he's not, or whatever. Some of these people don't want to be involved in this game. They go, yeah, listen, we don't want to hire fucking 30,000 people to be censoring. It's like, we don't want to be involved in censoring speech, but it's, this is the situation we're in.
I mean, you'll turn into literally 4chan overnight if you don't.
Okay, so, right. So if these people, if they said that these, once a place is big enough that it's become a utility, it should be regulated under the First Amendment. And to me, so they have to regulate according to that, which is, and again, so then that's where the fights take place, which is, well, what is that? And what are those things? And that becomes a law case, which is the gist of everything. You fight that those become court cases between, and that's where you have
legal precedent.
Right. And so I don't know how to get that pushed through, but I think that's the thing that makes sense. Once these things are utilities, they should be in accordance with the First Amendment. If they're not utilities, and I think that you would say, for example, if you ran a site that goes, we have a website and the purpose of that website is for people to come and talk about their dogs. And then some guy comes and everyone's talking about their dogs and it's for moms or whatever. And everyone comes on and, starts saying, let's say they just start swearing too much, and you didn't want swearing on the site. I do think that these companies should be able to kick someone off.
But for sure. The problem with Facebook, this discussion is the scale, right? And it's because they have this crazy network effect.
Yeah.
Facebook at 1 million users, nobody cares what they're doing. Nobody cares what smaller. Right. It's when everybody all of a sudden is like, hey, we're all using this. It's impossible for someone to start a new one just based on that network effect, where the more people, it's the more valuable the whole overall thing is. It's just nobody's gonna, TikTok is maybe the
yeah, what do you mean? That was a new one that came out.
But TikTok, nobody's posting there's no text on TikTok.
Well, maybe it'll change though. They all evolve.
Yeah.
They all evolve into something new. I mean, when
TikTok has its own problems.
When Facebook first started, it wasn't a political propaganda
site. Did you know, by the way, I was listening on some podcast where it's TikTok is, I can't remember what the company is, ByteDance. ByteDance is this crazy technology company, and TikTok is just one of their things. They're I can't remember if they're an advertising or exactly what they are, but TikTok's actually a small part of their business, and it was just a demonstration of how good their algorithm stuff are or whatever, and it just blew up. But they're this huge company outside of TikTok. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I knew ByteDance bought TikTok, but I didn't know the scope of that. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's this, when you look at, right now it's the one side being censored more than the other because that's who controls, whatever, the establishment, and it seems to have the ear more than politicians. And the conservative politicians, they play the Ted Cruz of the world, play the dog and pony show of pretending we're fighting for, this. But it's at the end of the day, they just know that's popular to get their clips, but they don't actually give a shit. And no one's incentivized to really get these problems through. And it's the same thing. Okay. The conservatives, were they for, freedom and people not looking at your phones after 9/11? They were very pro the government taking away your freedoms. Right. So it flips and flops back and forth.
Yeah.
But the idea of, well, we can solve this problem through the government. I mean, I see maybe if you could come to a consensus of what the government's role and set
I
it
don't
the way that
think-
you
'cause
set a
I
constitution.
think if the government was saying they're gonna, treat Facebook like a utility, I think it would just be a mess.
Maybe, but if they could say utilities operate on the First Amendment, you can't threaten people, whatever the fuck else is in there. You can't go on Twitter and now say, "Oh, there's a fire at my house and everyone needs to come." Whatever it is,
like an ISP, like you can get kicked off of an ISP for doing like an internet service provider, as far as I understand, for doing certain things. Like if you're running like a I don't know, some scam or something, the ISP's like, we don't want to do business with you.
Right.
Granted, there's other ISPs, but I don't know. Yeah, you can't have some scenario where we're going to kick nobody off ever for anything.
Well, I mean, everyone, even
that,
that,
everybody can agree that there's one person who deserves to be kicked off for something.
Well, and especially when you run a board. I mean, there's some that are, like you said, 4chan or 8chan or whatever, but it's like anyone, I think, how many comedians friends do we know that are super against censorship and then they, block and kick people out of their own fucking, groups or Patreons or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And so the issue is, to me, that A, it's lopsided, and B, it's incentivized to just keep getting worse. And
I think it's like a giant, just like it's like a giant ship. It's very hard to steer at this point. It's so big that it's
But I saw things like Parler, and whether you liked it or not, as positive. And it is good to have this social pressure, and people are kind of
competition's great. Yeah, 100%.
but also people not happy about this censorship. It's like there's Jack Dorsey, who probably has a political agenda, but there's a lot of people that run we know people that are fucking super rich dudes that run things. These people, a lot of them pale to the woke mob or whatever, and they don't want to.
No, it's just
they're just fucking
path of least
yeah,
resistance.
and maybe it becomes the path that maybe some of them are realizing that it's not the word, but to me, a lot of the problem is that the government was fucking involved in the first place. The fact that Jack Dorsey can lobby these fucking politicians and
he started this thing, and then all of a sudden he had this control, this power. It's almost like the documentary thing we watched, the people who built America or whatever. It's like Rockefeller all of a sudden was like this guy who's this nobody, and then all of a sudden he had this, like, he was 1% of the entire country's GDP, and he was so influential on an entire country that they were like, we have to do something about this. We can't have one person have this much influence, even if it was got the influence based on merit.
Yeah,
they at some point have to say, like, this is kind of getting...
Well, what do you think if the government was to solve this? I guess that would be the idea, was that, the conservative politicians would be able to rally together and do this. What would that look like?
I have no idea. The only thing I can think they could do is just keep pressuring them and hope that, like, the social networks can figure this out themselves. I know Facebook did some sort of panel, like if you get kicked off, they have some diverse panel of all like political leanings and professions or whatever that they're putting $30 million.
Which actually sounded sort of positive.
But again, it's like who picks these, and there'll always be someone, like, there'll be some.
That was my biggest problem, is that there's no one to go to. I said, if you're 15 years old and you go to jail, you serve your time and you live your life. If you're 15 years old and you get kicked off one of these platforms, you're off for the rest of your life. You essentially get a life sentence, and there's no one to appeal it to. I mean, to me, that's a problem. And so there needs to be, again, it seems like a court.
I mean, really, you just
issue.
get a new phone number and you're back on. But.
Well, not if you're not if you're a public figure.
Not if you're a public figure.
If you're any sort of public figure, they'll just go. I mean, if you get any traction,
yeah, like Stefan Molyneux can't just be like,
no, they go, he's back,
Twitter,
and they'll take him off.
Sure.
I mean, we know people that have been kicked off and they got to make fake names, but again, they have 10, 15,000. But if that got to 100,000, they just kick them off again. Yeah, or whatever. Fucking, like Anthony Cumia is that deal. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where,
but you also can't. It is it's not. I think a lot of people think that there's like this just simple, elegant solution to this, but there's not.
There's not.
Like, you can't have.
Well,
I think everyone can
public
agree.
will is. I mean, the truth is, honestly, the reason why all this censorship is taking place is because there's a huge public will for it, and the fact that there's people against that, it does help.
You can't have no rules. Like, you have to probably at least start at that point.
Well, but my point is, you have
any
rules. It's called the First Amendment. Those rules kind of exist.
Well, but doesn't the First Amendment essentially say on something like a Twitter that there are then no rules?
Well, that depends if speech is a public utility and if they have a monopoly on it. And if they do, and if they're essentially the town square, which is, kind of the argument, if
Twitter's definitely not the town square. Facebook closer to it, I'd say.
well, all of them
So many
combined,
people don't have Twitter.
whatever. It's a joint monopoly or whatever. If you want to, what's that called when there's oligopoly?
Duopoly.
Well, there's 3 or 4.
Or
But
the
I mean,
oligopoly,
if you
yeah.
take Facebook, I would guess Facebook and Instagram are one company. So between Facebook, Twitter, and
Yeah,
Google,
Facebook,
I mean-
Instagram, WhatsApp is one company.
yeah, so it's an oligarchy,
YouTube,
oligopoly.
Google, like YouTube, Google is like crazy,
And they all move in
because they kind of
lockstep.
like, I feel, get less scrutiny. But like YouTube, Google, they have more, in my opinion, more power than any of the other ones.
Yeah, and when they talk
Search
about
and video.
the idea is to. The idea, it seems like the idea, ideally, with the 230 thing, when they go repeal the 230, really the goal was, let's, and this is what Trump was trying to do, is scare these companies into obeying it.
Exactly.
And-
That's the only option. So what happens? You repeal it, and then you go on YouTube and you make, or someone goes on who's a vlogger and talks shit about somebody, especially in America, the most
And then you sue
litigious
Google.
country on earth, and then you're just the day one, every
I mean, I'll tell you
platform would
one
have
thing.
50 million lawsuits.
Yeah, it might be hard to sue Google, but it might. Yeah,
Why?
I don't know. They have the lawyers.
No,
and stuff.
because it would be all these lawyers who say,
Yeah, so
you don't pay us any money.
it seems like that's just fucking not happening.
Never
These
happening.
places are
Not
way
happening.
too powerful. The idea that you're just going to essentially make it impossible to run a site, it's just not.
They
a
could be forced to be
solution that's gonna
broken up.
happen.
I could see that.
Yeah, it
happening,
seems like that's-
where they are. Will say, you like for Facebook, you have.
But
to
how does
break
that
up-
solve see? And again, it depends on what your goal is. And if you're a fucking, communist or whatever, and you think that these, Google's bad for reasons that they're, other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But if your issue is the speech thing, breaking them up doesn't help that at all. If
No,
anything,
it's
it probably
still the
hurts
same
it.
employees.
Well, maybe it might hurt it because if anything, it's, they're being so watched. It's like, well, we better, collaborate with these politicians that want us to not say the wrong things.
Yeah, but also it's like, say you spin off, you go, well, we're going to spin off Facebook and Instagram. They're already their own companies, really. Like they operate in their own companies. Just happens to be Facebook's the owner of them. But you sell them and to a new owner, say whoever buys them, or Instagram lists as its own public company and they're separate or whatever. Still the same employees.
Yeah.
Still the same people running it. Like you're not getting rid of everybody.
Yeah. So if you were to say the perfect solution in your mind to the fact that, people can be kicked off and there's censoring and there's, for example, if you say the wrong medical information, all that, whatever, all the stuff, if you would say in a perfect world, what would be your best solution?
I don't know. I mean, there's not one. That's what I think. I know it's not.
Do you think it's a public will issue? Like it's really, this needs to
I think
be more popular of an issue?
Legit, like 98% of people couldn't give a fuck about this question.
I think it's less. I think it's more people than 2% give a fuck about it. But I agree that
about the actual like censorship on social media.
well, it's been very politicized, so I think it's been clumped into other issues where if you're on one side, it kind of becomes your cause, right? So I think a lot of people that let's say you think Fauci's a fucking clown. I think that's a whole demographic of people that
but people are on nonstop online saying he's a clown.
and they've been all the people they've been watching saying that if they've watched them get censored and taken down. Let's say the big group of people that thought the election you're part of the Stop the Steal thing, right? And that's a whole big cohort of people that's against censorship now. So I think that enough people have been censored that there's a lot of people that have sort of been against that joined this
The left-wing
cause.
bias thing is 100% like no question. If it was the other way around and Biden lost and he was saying stop the steal, whatever, like we got screwed and blah, 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 Facebook would 100% allow that.
They'd
wouldn't
support
put
it.
They'd support it. They
put
say,
it on
yeah,
their main
they put it on
page.
their main page. They wouldn't put up any notification. So like the political leanings of these companies are definitely an issue, but also forever, like, there was this whole thing where you don't ask people what their political leanings are.
Yeah.
Who did you vote for? It's like, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
So how do you shift like a
dude,
giant,
obviously.
what?
A dude.
Yeah. But how do you shift like a giant company's political culture? You hire for, you say, oh, we're all like, how companies are like, we're only hiring women, or like, we're only hiring Republicans.
No, you can't. I think,
can't.
But I think the answer is there has to be, that's why things like constitutions are good, is because it's sort of set and you don't.
Constitutions are the shit.
Constitutions are so sick.
I fucking love constitutions.
Well, I'd like to see some sort of appeal thing, but I mean,
No, an appeal.
I don't know.
And again, that would be the most fair thing.
And an appeal thing, a secondary appeal thing. Like, but again, if it's run by the government, I'm out. It's like I'd want a court, but it's like you want some crazy lawyer and.
You know what? And I would say
I'd like to be able to have a lawyer that goes to,
Yes.
fight if I got kicked off of places, but he's not going to that company. He's going to
I would agree
impartial
with you.
board.
I would agree with you on that one, where if you're someone like Stefan Molyneux, you hire a lawyer, you go to Facebook brings their lawyer,
And you can prove
you go
your
to
point.
court,
Yeah.
and you go, look, I'm not a racist. This is what I
But
said.
let's say
And
that
I-
you
and
said
I-
your data that they say is wrong. You go, this is my data that supports my
Exactly.
thing. You go, you're saying that this is misinformation, but I have the proof to say this actually happened.
and
Here's 10 medical professionals.
That would actually be fairly reasonable, I think. I don't know if what legal precedent would allow that, where like a court would hear this case. Maybe you set up
maybe that's where it goes.
a new, how there's traffic court.
Yeah.
Maybe there's cancel court or something. I don't know. Judges in session. We just catch cancel court. Judges in session.
So maybe this goes, and maybe
That's
whatever.
actually, what?
I think
I feel it's reasonable.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that they have the answer for this. And
I would say if Stefan Molyneux, just as using his as an example, if he got to go get a lawyer, give his case in front of an actual jury,
Yeah.
and then the jury was still said, yeah, you should be kicked off, I think he'd be like, okay. I think he would accept that. I think he would say, okay, I'm my bad. If 12 people,
I don't think he'd say that, but
I'm saying, like, he's this philosopher guy, all this stuff. If he said, okay, 12 random people, I gave my whole case, they still thought that
At least
I
I
deserved
lost. At least I lost. But it's not about deserving or not. It's did I break the laws as they're written on the Google sheet?
Right, and
so that's the question. It's not about. It's these things. They go, you're not allowed to do this. The question is, did you?
It goes
No,
back
no,
to the private
but
business
even
thing.
in the private business, someone can't say to you, "Hey, this pizza's $50," and then you get a bill for $500. The same reason someone can't say, "Hey, you're going to be kicked off this platform if you say this," and then you didn't say that, and they kick you off anyway.
They just interpreted you as saying that.
Exactly. So that it's like the interpretation. I think a lot of people would argue
there
that
would be some sort of, there could be,
for example,
they could afford to have some sort of adjudication process.
Well, I don't want it
for
to be
this.
from them because they'll, that's a fucking clown,
Well,
a kangaroo court.
It's maybe there's
a kangaroo court.
Maybe there's like an independent body that's funded by all the social media companies.
They have to pay into it.
They have to pay into it because they make so much money. They pay into it, but it's completely arm's length.
It's autonomous.
Arm's length.
And it's autonomous from the government too.
It's like how like police, they have like the the investigative that investigates the police.
Yeah.
So they're police, but their only job is to investigate stuff the police do. They're arm's length from the police department, something like that.
I guess that's I would guess we're back to the government dealing with it,
but that would be the government dealing with it.
Yeah.
Because nobody would trust.
Well, maybe I'm switching that. Maybe that would.
It's probably
be
like a
nothing.
mix of something.
Maybe it's a mix.
I don't
of
know if
something.
it's there isn't just these.
I'll tell you what
absolute
isn't
answers to
happening.
this.
They're just going to repeal 230 and no one can be a social media platform anymore.
No.
I mean, it's just a pipe dream. It's not going to happen.
No chance it's happening.
Yeah.
Not in America. There's too much money on the line.
Yeah. But anyways, okay. Well, I feel like a couple people comment on that and it's a complicated one. So I wanted to anyways, maybe you still think we're idiots or I'm an idiot or whatever, but that's what I think about it. Anyways. So again, another episode on the Patreon. This has been the Boys Cast.
Boys.